Mr. Chairman.
Supervisor Miller.
As you know, we received an appraisal, and I did send a letter to the appraiser regarding this appraisal. It was appraised. There were confusion over two different appraisals. The appraiser has sent back a letter which clarified that his appraisal was the 2.2 million, so we've taken care of that. The other concern I had was that the appraiser had a clause in the appraisal contract that said he did not evaluate any environmental conditions, and in his letter back to me, or to the gentleman in the real estate department, that in fact he did not consider asbestos, he did not evaluate that whatsoever. So I believe this appraisal for 2.2 million is clearly invalid at this point, since he did not consider that. And I think, to me, a building that was built in the 1950s, I think it's critical that that is evaluated prior to the vote on this. And as well, I had several other items on here. The contract says the owner of the bowling alley is not going to leave this facility for over a year because they're planning on a bowling tournament next June, and he's going to be allowed to stay on these premises free of charge. And the benefit that Mr. Huckleberry outlined was that we get free security during that year, which I find interesting. The big concern is, and as a result, Mr. Huckleberry has not addressed the asbestos portion. He said he wants to pay $2.85 million, which is $650,000 above appraisal, plus $91,000, almost $100,000 in closing costs, which brings our purchase price up to $3 million. And then the last memorandum that he sent, he said he's estimating approximately $4 million to remodel the facility for the purposes intended, which did not consider asbestos, because again, that appraisal does not include any evaluation of asbestos, lead paint, mold. So that is a huge concern to me, and I believe we should do our due diligence. Another question I have, that we have multiple facilities, alternatives that we could use, one of them being 97 East Congress that we remodeled for the Caterpillar folks who are housed there right now, who will be moving according to the Rio Nuevo district news that they've put out, is that they're planning to open the new Caterpillar headquarters next January. So these folks will be leaving. Chuck talked about that there is a facility on Romero Road that we own where close to 15,000 clients were served in the prior year. This shows that this facility is clearly pretty adequate for serving a whole lot of people. The people know where it is and they're able to get there. It's not they're not being impeded, because with that many clients showing up, that shows they need to get there. And then the gentleman is going to be allowed to remove the bowling lanes, the bowling equipment, etc. When he leaves. That department, or excuse me, that facility on Romero Road is owned by the health department. The appraiser had multiple clauses or statements in his appraisal that is very concerning. He talked about that there's a very limited market for this particular type of facility. The fact that the appraiser said he can't make a determination if a bowling alley is financially viable. He did say that, they're probably not, because bowling alleys are being sold, and this is on page 36 of the appraisal, for $30 and often well below $20 a square foot. And we're paying $57 a square foot. The appraisal was appraised at $44 a square foot. So, we're paying approximately 30% over the appraised value. There have Also in the appraisal on page 35, there has been no significant new private commercial development along Miracle Mile and I-10 area over the past 40 years. This is not a booming market. This is not an area where you should pay over appraised value. And then the concerns again, that why are we doing this now when we're telling taxpayers we don't have any money. There's never money for roads, but we can always find money for these types of things that we decide, and I always call them the shiny object. This came out of nowhere. And Chuck talks in his memo about this coming about in January of this year. I would like to note that the appraisal was dated December. They had clearly been looking at it since 2017. And when we found that there was asbestos, the way I found the asbestos was I pulled the permits because there were conflicting memorandums about what the improvements were. Was it kitchen? Was it bar? We didn't know what it was, so I asked my staff to pull the permits. When we pulled the permits, multiple files were locked, but we did find the Department of Environmental Quality, asbestos permits that were issued for a small renovation, and it was a small one, 550 square feet, had to be abated for asbestos. I just think the kind of message we are sending to the taxpayers, and Richard, you always, Supervisor Elias, you always talk about the fact that we have multiple balls in the air and that we can multitask. I think we've proven that we cannot multitask because we have failed the taxpayers over and over again on these roads, and it's killing economic development. I'm really glad people are hyper aware of that now, but it's taken 25 years to get people to become aware of that. And we keep doing deals like this. This is going to be $7 million plus. And why? The urgent need right now. This guy's going to stay in there for over a year, free rent. Why don't we wait till that year's up, do our due diligence, find out how much this asbestos abatement is going to cost the taxpayers, not us, the taxpayers, and at that point, a year from now, make a determination on whether or not we purchase this. This is wrong. This is not doing our due diligence, and it is putting a finger in the eye of the taxpayers, and it's a wonder they don't believe us anymore when they see these kinds of deals going down. Thank you.
Supervisor Bronson?
Aye.
Supervisor Christie?
No.
Supervisor Miller?
No.
Supervisor Valadez?
Aye.
Chairman Elias?
Aye. Motion carries 3-2.